Very, very welcome at St. Philip's.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So the game is called Guess the Number. So I'm going to ask you a question. You need to guess the number to the closest whole number. So the first question is, in 2017 to 2018, how many students, or how many million of students, were studying at higher education institutions? So how many of them were studying at higher education institutions? So you just put up your hand. If you get it right, I'll give you a hand. Does anyone want to guess? Yeah? 5 million? Not 5 million. Any other guesses? Not 3? That will make it easier, so I'm not going to answer those questions. And that? Yeah. So someone can answer that. The answer is 2 million. 2.34 to be exact. So someone can pass that back to her. Next question. In 2017, so 2016 to 2017, what percentage, so it's a percentage, of graduates were in work or further education or further studies within 6 months of leaving university? So within 6 months, how many were in further education or were in work, to the nearest percentage? Does anyone want to guess? Yeah? Not 20%? Not 60? At the back?
30%.
Pardon?
30%.
Not 30? Not 10%? Not 40? Not 80? Not 70? Yeah, so the answer was 90. Two more left. In the latest National Student Survey, this was published in 2018, what percentage of students were satisfied with the quality of their course? So this means they went to university and they were happy with what they learned. What percentage? So it's a whole number. It's a whole number. It's the closest whole number. Yeah? Not 60? 85? Not 85. I'm taking whole numbers. So that would be like 10. That's okay. Do you want to guess again? 80. Yeah. Life is not a fair game, unfortunately, but there's plenty of other opportunities to win packs. This is the last question for today. So, this is what I thought that you would like to end on. The students in China receive the most homework in the world. At an average, how many hours a week of homework do you think the teenagers have? So, how many hours? And to give you a clue, this is not going to be a whole number, it's just a number. Just a number. Not 70? 70 or 17? So, not 10? 5? Not 5. Think about how much homework you do, and then think about how much homework you do. I'm sorry. Any other guesses? Not 25? Not 22? Not 15? Not 20? Not 30? Not 12? Not 19? Not 28? Not 7? If you don't speak up, I'm not going to be able to hear you. Not 35? Not 45? Think of how many hours are in a day and try to quantify it. 24? Not 24? To make it easier, it's under 20. That would be the way to. But if you don't put up your hand, I won't be able to guess. So I'm trying to make it as fair as possible. It's not 18. It's not 16. It's not 15. It's not 11. It's not 18. It's not 13. Wow. It's not 17. It's not a number that's been said before as well. It's not 12. Not 19. Yes. 14 hours of homework. Okay. Ruth. You can call me Ruth if you want to. I'm 24 years of age. I finished university a couple of years ago, and now I'm currently working for a consultancy firm based in Victoria. That probably means nothing to you, because when I was at school, I had no idea what consulting was. And even now, I couldn't say 100% what it is, but I'm just going to kind of be explaining to you about how I ended up here today. So, we'll start with my education. How many of you have heard of Greenshaw High School? Anybody heard of it? Okay. So it's literally down the road and up a hill from here. And this is the school that I went to for my education in terms of secondary school. And when I was at Greenshaw, I felt like, I had myself together. Mainly because when it came to GCSEs, this is the first time we had your results recorded. So if you think about your SATs, you don't really bring them up in interviews, you don't have it on your CV. But when it comes to your GCSEs, even now it's still my CV, and people still want to make sure you have like a certain grade in maths and English. So when I finished at Greenshaw, I finished with 6 A's and 5 B's. And for me, I thought that was pretty good. No A stars, so I was in my feelings a little bit, but I was like, this is a good start. It was a decent start. But then I decided to change schools. Does anyone know what school this is? You can shout out. Old Challenge. Pardon? Old Challenge. It's not Old Challenge, it's based in Croydon, so you might not know it. Old Palace. It's not Old Palace, sorry. It's based in Croydon? Yeah, so I went to Archbishop Tennyson's for sixth form. I was there, I moved after my GCSEs and I went there for A-levels. And this was the first challenge I encountered in my education. Because if you think about it, when you're in secondary school, you're there for 5 years, your teachers have an opportunity to know you, they know what your strengths and weaknesses are. But for me, when I went to Archbishop Tennyson's to do my A-levels, nobody could really advise me because they didn't know me. And because they didn't know me, they didn't know which subjects were better for me or which were worse. So that's what I realised. It was difficult for me to have some sort of grounding in terms of what I was going to do in my education. Secondly, A-levels are hard. For me, that was the hardest period of my life. Like, university is great, GCSEs are great, but A-levels is another world for me. And for that, I really, really struggled. So when I was picking my A-levels, I decided to pick 2 quantitative subjects, so 2 numbers-based subjects, and 2 qualitative subjects, basically written-based. So I ended up doing mathematics and economics for quantitative, and I did sociology and religious studies in terms of qualitative. So I was really happy with my subjects. Please imagine my shock when I finished my first year of A-levels with a D, an E, and a U. And for me, I didn't even know what a U was. U means unclassified. Basically, your work is ungradable. It's not really, maybe the marks they give it to you is for maybe 1 or 2 questions and writing your name. So for me, I was thinking, how do I go from an A grade student to a U student? Because ultimately, that is what I was at the time. And I was thinking, how can I make my A-levels work for me? Because I was very confused at how the jump was so big. So here's what I decided to do. I'm very social. You can probably tell from the way I'm talking. I like to talk. This is me and my yay. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to speak to my teachers, and I'm going to make them understand me. So a lot of the teachers at Archbishop Tennyson's didn't know me in my first year, but by the end of second year, they could say that they knew me. So I got to know my teachers, because teachers are your best resource. If you think about it, they know you as a person, and they know the curriculum inside and out. So for that reason, I was like, I'm going to use the knowledge that I have from my teachers and ask them what they could do for me and how they could help me. Secondly, I was like, I need smart friends. I'm not the smartest person, so I need to find out who the smartest people are in my class, and I need to be friends with them. And if you're wondering who that is in your class, and you're not sure, that might be you. You might be the smartest person in your class, and you should be helping other people to make yourself know the knowledge more and more. So that's what I did. I made friends with the smartest kid in the class. Thirdly, I got a tutor. If you can, tutors are a great resource. They are great because they're external, and they also have more one-on-one time with you. When I was studying maths, which is what I got my U in, I had 2 tutors for the last 2 months before my exams, because I really did not want a U at the end. I'll tell you what grades I got at the end later, but didn't take maths forward, is what I can say. So that's what happened to me in regards to my sixth form life. So, what happened next? I ended up at Durham University. If you know Durham University, at the time I finished my A-levels and was going to university, Durham University was 3rd in the country. So everyone's heard of Oxbridge, so Oxford and Cambridge, but not many people have heard as much of Durham. So when I finished my A-levels, I finished with an A star, an A and a C. and I went to Durham to study sociology. After that, I continued my education and I went to LSE, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So, how did things end for me at Durham University? If you can see this picture, you can tell that it's a happy ending. And it's also one of the rare universities that allows you to have fur on your collar, because that's how cold it is. So, at Durham, it was a completely different experience. If you think about it, Durham, if anyone knows, is near Newcastle. It's about 300 miles from here. So for one, I felt very isolated and I felt very alienated in my experiences because there were not many people who I knew there. But some of my best friends now are from university. And for me, I loved sociology. That's what I got my A star in, and sociology just made sense. Sociology is ultimately talking about how different people view the world and think about why society is the way it is. And when I thought about it, I was like, this is true. Most of the people have different ideas about society and how they think it should be. So for me, I really enjoyed studying the degree. So, LSE, also another happy ending, also graduated from there. So as soon as I finished my 3 years at Durham, I had my quarter life crisis. I finished at 21, so I was having one sort of crisis thinking, what are my next steps? Everybody wants to know what are you going to do next and why you're going to do it. And for me, I didn't feel like I had enough time to know what I wanted to do. I knew I liked sociology, but I didn't know anything else about the professional world. I didn't do a grad scheme. I didn't do any insight days. I didn't do any internships. And a lot of my friends who did that, so they had the knowledge. I didn't have it. So I said, do you know what? I like studying. I think sociology makes sense. I'm going to get another degree. So I went to LSE to study something called contemporary social thought. Does anybody know what contemporary social thought is? Any ideas? Great, because this is how I felt when I was applying for it, and also when I was telling my parents who did not understand what I was going to study. What contemporary social thought means is basically how people view the world. For example, when you think about a city like London, why is London built the way it is? Why is it structured in this particular way? Which sounds like is not very fun, but that's ultimately links to the job that I'm doing now. So I'm going to talk about two really interesting concepts from my degree to kind of expand your insight into what you could study, because you don't need to do the conventional things if you don't want to. So, does anybody know what this is? Okay, how many of you have been on a bus stop before? Cool. How many of you have sat on a bus stop before? Like sat on the chairs? Keep your hand up if you found it comfortable. Does anybody know why they didn't find it comfortable? Or why it's designed like that? You can just shout out, it's fine. It's too high. Any other things? Okay. Any other things that are not comfortable? Yes. So a bus stop is designed like this. It's really high, it's really short, and you slide off it because they don't want people who are homeless to sleep there. So try and make it as uncomfortable as possible so people who are homeless do not sleep there. So that's the purpose of it. And we're thinking about this in a sociological sense is this right or wrong? Should this be the way things are? And how can it be designed better? The second thing I studied, does anybody know what this is? You can shout. Bitcoin. Okay, so another thing we studied was the sociology of money. And we looked at, one of the things we looked at is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I studied at LSE in 2015 to 2016 when it was emergent. So it was really, really interesting. It was really, really contemporary in that sense. So I'm going to give you an example of something that we studied. So can anybody tell me how much this is? If you can see it. Okay. How much is it worth now? Why is it still a £5 note? Someone said it's still a five. Why is it still a £5 note? Pardon? Because it doesn't lose its value. Because of the amount that's printed on it, this is how much it's worth. So we basically socially construct the value of money. Because whether it's a £5 note, a £10 note, a 20 or 50, because of the number that's printed on it, that makes it relevant. Does that make sense? Yeah? So I'm going to read a quote from one of my lecturers. It says, "It was the finite supply of bitcoins that rendered them especially attractive as a store of value and therefore an instrument of speculation. Left to the markets suggests that they ought to be. Bitcoins have not, or at least not yet, have an unlimited gated success as money. And because there's not that many Bitcoins, that's why it's so valuable. People attribute worth to things that are not many. So if any of you have an old £5 note, I suggest that you keep it, because if you think about it, in 50 years, it's going to be worth a lot of money. If you haven't done it with a £5 note, as you may have heard yesterday, they've announced what's going to be happening with the new, is it £20 or £50 note? So that's something for you to maybe keep your eye on. So, what happened after LSE? So this is basically me, and I'm going to go now through my employment history. My first ever job was at Chessington World of Adventures. How many of you have been to Chessington World of Adventures? Keep your hand up if you've been to a theme park. Been to a theme park? Okay. So you know you're going on the ride, and you have somebody on the side who's cheering you on, waving at you, telling you to smile. Have you seen that person? Yeah, that was me. That was my first ever job at 16 years of age. Probably one of my most humbling experiences, because you always have to be happy because you're always working for people. But after that, I went to go work at Boots. I worked at Boots for 5 years, so it financed me throughout my educational experiences. So that is my secondary school, because I started in sixth form. And then also in terms of university and also for my degree at LSE. And that's basically where I kind of got my glow up. I learned about makeup. I didn't really know too much, and I was able to work on the makeup counter, the perfume counter, and just general skincare, which is just great for a girl who's maybe like 16, 17 and knows nothing. So that was really interesting. After LSE, I was having my quarter life crisis part 2, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided to work as a teaching assistant. I worked as a teaching assistant for 3 months, and in that I kind of used that time as well to finance my company or build my company, which I'll talk about later. After that, I decided to do tutoring. I love studying. I love sociology, so I decided to tutor. I did that for about 2 or 3 years whilst at LSE and into my next job, just to kind of get experience if I wanted to be a teacher. As you can tell, I decided not to be a teacher. In this job as well, I also worked as in an IT firm. So I was a startup IT firm, and I worked as a relationship manager. And what the IT firm did was basically provide IT services to a school, and I basically had to go and manage the relationship between the school and the IT firm and make sure that things were okay with everything. And then I worked in a recruitment consultancy firm for a year. Recruitment consultancy is another world altogether. If you think about it, you're dealing with people's lives, and you're dealing with people's livelihood. And I was there for about a year until I decided to work at PA Consulting. So, when I was at LSE and I was working at a school, I kind of realised that a lot of students are struggling in terms of what next steps to take, how to navigate themselves in the education and the employment world. And I was thinking, I am an unlikely measure of success. Firstly, I'm a working class person. Secondly, I'm a female. And thirdly, I'm an ethnic minority. So all these things are not your typical go-to for success. And I realised a lot of students were having the same struggle as me. When I originally applied to university, I made Durham my insurance. I was going to go to Manchester, till my school told me that Durham was a really good university. It's just that I had never heard of it. If I think about as well getting into LSE, I just applied to all the universities that I could in a short amount of time. So for me, I didn't have the knowledge. And I think it's so important that if you have the knowledge, you pass that knowledge on. And that's ultimately what I'm doing today and with my company. So, what have I learned at the age of 24? So I'm going to tell you 3 things I've learned, and these are the 3 kind of takeaways that I kind of want you to have from today. So the first thing I've learned is be introspective. Be introspective. Does anybody know what introspective means? There's a cat snake. Anyone know what introspective means? No? Okay. I'll keep this for later. So introspective, I'm going to give you an exact definition and I'll break it down. Introspective basically means examining and considering your own ideas and feelings and thinking about what you think about them before you speak to somebody else. So if I've learned anything, I've learned who am I? What do I stand for? What am I willing to do? I don't want anybody to come and tell me this is what you think you should do. And at sixth form, at university, it was very I want to write down what I want to achieve. The second thing that I've learned is to be intrigued. Does anyone know what intrigued means?
And very keen in like walking like interest.
Pardon?
Intrigued, like you're very like you want to know what has to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Intrigued means is to be of interest, to be curious, to find out what the strange, the unusual, or the mysterious is. So the things I'd say is to find out about the world. It might be a documentary, it might be something that you watch. Netflix, I think, is so great for documentaries. They really make it interesting. If you think about things like the Fire Festival, if you think about things like When They See Us, these are real life things that are documented, that they've made easy to watch. I would also say that, think about podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. My top 3 podcasts are Making Sense, 50 Things That Make the Modern Economy of the World by the BBC, and The Art of Manliness. Those 3 podcasts give me a different perspective of the world that I would not be open to or would not really see in any other way. And also, try to be curious about books. 3 books that I've read this year that have changed my life is Slane Boulay, The Defining Decade, and The Murky Story by Stormzy. All these books have given me a different perspective on the world. Try and be intrigued and find out things. And my last point, be interested and be interesting. So I'll just give you a definition. So being interested is basically the feeling of wanting to give your attention to something, or wanting to be involved and discover more. Or be interested, your interests are the activities that you enjoy doing. So when I say be interested, be curious about people, try and find out. The thing that works for me in my favour all these years is socialising and getting to know people. People say your network is your net worth, and the last 2 jobs I got is through my network. I didn't have to apply for these jobs. It's through people I knew who recommended me, and that's what got me here today. So your network is so important. And also be interested. Be somebody somebody wants to talk to. Be knowledgeable about things. Let them ask questions and be intrigued by you. But that's everything from me. Thank you very much.